What are the different types of work pass available to founders who want to start and run their business in Singapore?
Okay, so let's break it down into two parts. So in Singapore, the immigration landscape, there are generally two types of passes. So we have passes for stay, and we also passes for work. So for immigrant founders who want to work in Singapore, for foreigners of all nationalities, the more popular work passes are the employment pass and the S pass. So the employment pass is generally meant for professionals, managers, and executives, the more senior end of the spectrum. Whereas for the S pass, it's strictly for employees, those who are mid-skilled, technicians, associates, those kind of roles. So for employment pass and S pass holders, when they are here, okay, and if their salary is at least $6,000, they have dependent privileges, which means that they can actually bring their family over with them. Okay, the dependent pass is not a work pass, it's more of a residency pass. The main purpose is for the family members to live in Singapore with the main pass holder.
So EP for more senior level roles and S pass for more mid-level roles.
Yeah, you're right.
But what does that look like in practice? What are the main differences between EP and S pass for founders when choosing for themselves or their prospective hires?
Okay, I think the main differences is during the salary and the type of hire. Is it a very senior role or a very junior role? So to qualify for EP, the minimum salary starts at $5,600. So for a very young candidate around 23 years old with recognized degrees. And this salary threshold usually goes up progressively with age and experience. So one good about EP is that there's no quota and there's also no levy either. And this is the most common pass type for business founders and for senior international hires. For S-Pass, it's generally strictly for employees only. So business owners cannot apply for S-Pass. Okay, and the minimum fixed salary starts at around $3,300 for a candidate who is very young with recognized degrees. And similarly, the qualifying salary will go up progressively with age and experience. So unlike the EP, the S-Pass is subjected to a quota. So meaning company will need to hire a certain number of locals first based on their business sector before they can obtain the S-Pass quota. Besides quota, company also need to pay a monthly levy of $650 for each S-Pass holder that they have employed.
And you just mentioned salary threshold and quotas. How does that influence which pass can a company realistically pursue?
Okay, salary thresholds are generally non-negotiable. So either you meet them or you don't meet. So if the MOM website says that this person needs $5,600 to qualify for an EP and you apply for the EP at $5,500, 100% definitely it will be rejected. And one thing to take note that salary thresholds generally is increasing over the years as median salary increases, and also Singapore is constantly tightening the work pass framework so that the right talent can come to Singapore. So generally check, so they should always check the current figures of MM website rather than relying on someone who tell them that, oh, this is a salary for them to qualify EP last year. For quota, generally it's more complex. So for S-Pass, the quota is generally based on the business sector of the company and the number of local employees the company had hired. So MOM has also been increasing the local qualifying salary used to determine foreign worker quota entitlements, having recently increased it from 1,006 to 1,008, effectively July this year. So one thing to note that is that early stage startup usually work with very small teams, and they generally cannot afford to employ so many local employees, right, to have the necessary S-Pass quota to hire foreign candidates.
Right. So what happens if all of this still isn't enough and the application gets rejected? Is it worth appealing?
Oh, definitely worth considering. So one thing to note, appeals are free. So if it's free, why not try, right? And MOM allows up to 2 appeals. So your first appeal failed, it's okay. It's free to submit the second appeal. And we also seen rejections being overturned, but only when there is a genuine new information or stronger case to be presented to MOM. So submitting an appeal with no new information rarely works. So the key to a successful appeal is to understand why was it rejected in the first place. So MOM usually give an indication, sometimes they don't. So immigration consultants look at the application holistically. So the company profile, the candidate profile, why was it rejected, and try to pinpoint an appeal strategy to tackle the rejection reason. Okay, so if EP isn't the right fit, because they couldn't meet the salary threshold, company doesn't have the budget, then no issues. They can always try for another pass type such as the S-Pass. So in the Singapore immigration landscape, there are very many options that many people would realize.
So they have 2 free appeals and a chance to course correct. I think that's a lot more runway than people would expect. So now let's talk about a situation that's probably more common. when founders come to Singapore on spouse's pass, you just mentioned dependent pass, but can a dependent pass holder start and run a business in Singapore?
Yes. So dependent pass holders who are keen to start operate their own business can apply for a letter of consent under their DP or a standalone EP.
And can you explain what a letter of consent is and who can apply for it?
Okay, a letter of consent, also known as LOC, is an approval from MOM that allows the dependent pass holder to work legally in Singapore in the context of running their own business. So it's more like an approval that sits alongside with the DP. So to apply for an LOC as a business owner, the DP must first own a business, and this business structure needs to fit into one of these three categories, which is a sole proprietor, a partnership, okay, or the DP holder is the company director and owns at least 30% shares in an ACRA registered company. The key thing to understand is this. The LOC validity is tied to the DP validity. So if the DP expires or is cancelled, the LOC goes with it. And the LOC is only valid for so long as the LDP remains. So underlying statement is not standalone. It's always indirectly linked to the main pass holder status as well.
So if the DP expires, so does the LOC as it sits on top of it. That means that it has to be renewed, correct?
Yes, correct.
So what does the renewal look like? Is it just simply reapplying or there are some more hoops to jump through?
Okay, so this is generally where a lot of people get stuck or caught up. So renewal isn't automatic and the requirements are generally more stricter than initial application. So to renew the LLC, the business needs to show that it's contributing to local employment. Specifically, the business needs to have hired at least one Singaporean citizen or PR who is earning the prevailing local salary. As I mentioned earlier, so it's currently at 1,006 per month, and from July onwards, it will increase to 2,008. And this local employee also need to receive CPF contributions for at least 3 months consecutively before submission of the LLC renewal application. So it's not whether the LLC holder business is doing well, is running, it's about whether this business is creating local jobs. So MOM wants to see economic contribution when they approve a work pass. And most importantly, what I've shared with many LLC holders is this: the timing is very important. So they have to ensure that the local hiring is in place before they apply, not just starting to hire during the renewal application submission stage.
So there are so many minute details there, and sometimes the timing could catch someone really off guard. What happens if the renewal gets rejected? Does the founder have to leave Singapore?
Oh, definitely not necessary. And that's a very important distinction. So most of the LLC rejections that we have seen are due to issues with the local hiring requirement. Maybe the LLC holder has hired the local hire too late. Yeah, things like that. So the LLC is rejected. Generally, the DP or the dependent pass is still valid. The founder just cannot continue operating the business as a DP holder under the LLC arrangement option. Okay, at that point, the founder has other options as well. As I mentioned earlier, they can always consider a standalone EP under the company. Let's say they cannot afford an EP, then they can look into what is the issue with their local hiring. Why MOM rejected it, and try to reapply for the LLC once they can rectify the issues with that local hire. What I tell many LLC holders is this: MOM actually allows renewal of the LLC 6 months in advance. Don't wait until the last minute. We see a lot of cases where founders let these local hiring requirements slip. They were very busy. They didn't realize that it takes 3 months to contribute CPF for the local hire, and timing generally really matters. And when the LLC renewal gets rejected, so this is a very avoidable situation, and they can generally plan ahead. So start thinking about the renewal at least 6 months in advance. Make sure the local hiring is in place before they apply the LLC renewal application.
That raises a natural question then. For a dependent pass holder who wants to run their business here, how do they decide between staying on an LOC versus just going with a standalone EP? What are the trade-offs there? For
DP holders deciding on which pass type, whether it's an EP or LOC, it's actually dependent on the importance of having the certainty to operate the business versus saving cash capital for the company. So one major consideration is this: if a candidate is having an EP, it provides certainty in employment as it's not dependent on another pass. For LOC holders, whether they can work depends on the validity of the DP, which indirectly depends on the validity of the main pass holder. So if the main pass holder who is holding an EP is retrenched or changes job, the existing EP will be cancelled. This will lead to a cancellation of the DP and LOC. So for a short period of time, maybe about 1 to 2 months, the DP holder will not be able to work until he or she obtains a new DP and LOC. So in the worst case scenario, if the LLC holder has ongoing contract obligations, he or she may have to pay compensation to the client because she's not able to work and service the contracts. Another consideration that business owner will have to take note is the salary requirement. So one thing good about LOC is that there's no minimum salary requirement, thus making the compensation package more flexible. Companies can factor in variable components such as commission, bonuses, and equity payments. So if the company is not doing well or even has no contract to service, that the LOC holder can even not pay himself or herself a salary at all. Okay, one last thing that I always advise clients, okay, when they start their business, they can also consider a hybrid model. So they can apply for an LLC first at the business startup stage. This is where they need time to find clients, and cash preservation is very important. So once the company is more on track, they can then upgrade to an EP.